Mr. Monroe of the Monroe Foundation a hand.
The Community Reinvestment Organizing Project is a three-year-old campaign to push public policy at the state, municipal, and county level that would hold banks that receive public deposits or manage public investments on behalf of the Cook County Treasurer, the City of Chicago Treasurer, or the State of Illinois Treasurer accountable for the foreclosures that they are filing at rapid paces, the branch dislocations in many low-income communities and economically struggling communities, in many cases because they have made so many bad loans in those communities that they can't juice anybody anymore, so let's move out and try somewhere else, is our opinion. And most importantly, in our view of our coalition, there is no real public policy being advanced or have been proposed, although we support some of the efforts that have taken place, most recently in the city of Chicago with the vacant building ordinance to hold banks accountable for the vacant properties. But it is the position of our coalition that until banks fear the mass exodus of public funds and public investments taken from their institutions, we believe only until such time as they have that kind of fear will they begin to do the right thing. So a year ago, we instituted what we call a community reinvestment report card on banks that are in compliance with the Community Reinvestment Act, and I'll speak to that briefly in a moment, but most specifically in terms of what those institutions that we have targeted, what they are doing to engage in community partnerships. The Community Reinvestment Act is a law that was passed in 1977. It actually came out of some fundamentally excellent, good, hardcore, grassroots community organizing that began in the Westside, on the west side of Chicago, and it was led by residents on the West Side that included the late Gail Carter. The Community Reinvestment Act, contrary to a lot of people seem to think, it ain't about a grant, it's not about a sponsorship to a dinner. It's about institutions meeting the credit needs of the community, including poor communities as well. And what has happened in the last 15, 20 years, in the opinion of our coalition, that the landscape of banking has changed from 1977. So now you have a lot of the mainstream financial institutions, Bank of America and others, they engage their lending through affiliate lenders, because they themselves had difficulties in making loans directly, particularly in low and moderate income communities, but more principally in low income communities. So what those institutions would do would engage in affiliate mortgage lending, which became the subprime market. And all subprime was not necessarily bad, because for many in the African and Hispanic communities, that was the only way they were going to achieve the dream of home ownership. But the aspect of subprime lending that became deplorable was that which was done in a predatory fashion. So, we are here today to release and announce our second year of issuing a report card on financial institutions. And what we decided to do this year, differently than last, is that we focused on specific institutions that have the Austin and West Cook County communities as part of their assessment area. And by rule of the Community Reinvestment Act, a bank's assessment area is the area that it has chosen to lend. And the report card, by the way, if there's any institutions here who may find that they were not given a community grade that you perhaps can digest, this is not the forum to litigate your argument. We would encourage you to join the Housing Committee of the Westside Ministers Coalition and be a partner in how perhaps you could be reflected more differently in 2012. First, we have Bank of America. The Community Reinvestment Organizing Project has given them a pass grade, and the reason being, Bank of America has supported the expansion of foreclosure prevention counseling services in Proviso Township communities of West Cook, Maywood, Bellwood, Hillside, Westchester, Berkeley. Bank of America has been very supportive of providing CRA qualifiable grants to housing counseling agencies that has enabled them to hire additional staff and expand their foreclosure as well as homeownership counseling services. So for that reason, we give them a passing grade. Community Bank of Oak Park River Forest. We have given that institution a grade of fail. The reason why, Community Bank of Oak Park River Forest, its headquarters in downtown Oak Park, in April this year, banks are graded regularly by their bank regulator under the Community Reinvestment Act. Community Bank of Oak Park River Forest Bank received a grade of substantial non-compliance with the Community Reinvestment Act. That institution received a substantial non-compliance with the Community Reinvestment Act because it does not lend or has focused any lending, has not promoted any lending in the Austin community. And the regulator has said, you need to start focusing lending and being involved in lending initiatives and promoting products and services in the Austin community. Now, as of this point, so far, what banks have to do when they receive one of the two negative grades that they receive from the regulator, needs to improve and substantial non-compliance. Financial institutions have to submit a corrective action plan, which, as the name implies, is stated to the regulators, issued by the board of directors, what they're going to do going forward to address any of the deficiencies outlined by the regulator. One of the things the bank has begun to do is provide these what's called champion grants, grants up to about $2,000. If you look on the website of the Community Bank of Oak Park River Forest, you will see that so far, except for $500 to Columbus Park Food Pantry a couple months ago, most of those champion grants, which in our opinion are not CRA investments. They're not supporting home ownership, they're not supporting financial literacy, that has nothing to do with providing access to financial services for the unbanked, has nothing to do with addressing foreclosures, any of those things. These are feel-good corporate grants. They put an African American in the position as the community face of the institution. In our opinion, is to deflect attention off of the negative rating that it has. Only 2 banks in the United States has received a substantial non-compliance. We challenge those of you who share our concerns about the role or lack of role financial institutions are not taking and actually being real partners in the work that you're doing to stabilize communities, stabilize families, promote access to capital, financial education, home ownership, foreclosure intervention on the front end. These institutions need to be involved in those kinds of initiatives. And for the lack of their involvement, we give this institution a grade of fail. JP Morgan Chase, we have given this institution a pass grade, and then just recently, for several years, Chase Bank had refused to come to the table and be part of any real dialogue or grassroots organizations, again, working on issues of financial education, home ownership, foreclosure intervention, and prevention. But they, in large measure, to State Representative John Ford, who will speak later on this morning about his work and leadership on this issue, we were able to get Chase Bank to come to the table and to look at participating in an initiative with housing counseling agencies on the west side of Chicago to provide foreclosure intervention, counseling, and assistance to Chase borrowers in West Coast and in the Austin community who are at imminent risk of default. And I think that deserves a fall. Again, that's what CRA engaged activity is about, is addressing in the case of Chase, addressing your problem loans on the front end, and then working with community partners, more so giving them the resources they need to be legitimate partners in your advocacy, as opposed to just thinking that there's only certain groups out there that can be supported. Neighborhood housing services, the urban league, but there's other groups, particularly in the Austin community, that if they have the kind of resources that will enable them to have the proper staffing on hand to provide the front end foreclosure or pure default counseling, we can begin to stabilize some of these communities. PNC Bank does not, as of yet, have a presence directly in the Austin community. They are involved in some conversations with the Monroe Foundation, Noble Neighbors, the Westside Ministers Coalition, to begin to identify parcels of property or how they can begin to have a presence in the Austin community. At present, they are in the Westbrook County community, and they have been a major player in supporting financial literacy, home ownership counseling, foreclosure counseling, workforce development initiatives in the Austin and West Cook County community. That they have been just a major supporter of these kinds of initiatives as they have been presented to them by the Monroe Foundation. So we give them a grade of pass with high honors. Urban Partnership Bank, we give them a grade of incomplete. In fact, the Lord touched my heart because the original grade, we had some arguments about this amongst our coalition partners. The original grade we were giving Urban Partnership Bank is a grade of fail. But we want to change this to complete, so hopefully at some point they will actually consider having dialogue with the community. We base this grade even as they prepare to relocate with a new facility, I believe, in the Bellwood community and one in the Austin community. We think these are excellent efforts by the institution, but until a financial institution sits down with the community, not just elected officials, sit down with the community and find out what kind of products and services, whether it's lending, refinancing, financial education, opening a bank account for the unbanked, until these institutions sit down and hear what the community wants, then your institution will just be there looking real nice, but probably not opening a lot of accounts in the Austin and West Cook County community. And certainly, the Community Reinvestment Organizing Project, we will do our level best to ensure from an organizing perspective that until Urban Partnership Bank sits down in good faith and have real conversation about community benefits that's real for the community, we will lobby against that bank and we will invest ourselves in the failure of that institution until they come to the table. My last commentary on that, this advocacy campaign with regard to Urban Partnership Bank was the former South Shore Bank before that. Although on this website we talk about that we want to continue the spirit of South Shore Bank, we have seen no evidence of that in the past year. I know how the South Shore Bank was. My organizing days began in South Shore. I knew Bill Davis, I knew Ron Kaczynski and Mary Otis. This institution has not been anything in the spirit of that former institution in terms of its commitment to community investment, and it actually never had, in our opinion, further, even when they had the loan production office, which those of you who've been doing this a long time, this number may recall, they had committed to a full-service brand facility, which never occurred. Figure the rest out for yourself. Lastly, something different this year, we added a space where you can name a bank that you feel has been working in the interest of community investment as well as community reinvestment. Give us that bank institution. Let us look at them further and give you some additional details to help either further that relationship with that institution, whether it's on the positive side of what the engagement may be, or if you're having challenges with that institution, which is, again, how our advocacy with Chase Bank began. Lastly, the Community Investment Organizing Project has submitted an ordinance that Alderman Pat Dow and Alderman Terry Alston have agreed to sponsor jointly. It is the Municipal Depository Commitment to Community Reinvestment Notification and Responsibility Ordinance. This ordinance is geared towards holding banks that receive city deposits and manage city investments on behalf of taxpayers accountable for exactly what they're doing to invest and reinvest those public dollars. What happened back in February, we got Alderman Dow to sponsor a resolution that we drafted for her that actually required Chase Bank to come before the Finance Committee and to speak on their rationale at the time, a proposal to raise fees on accounts under $500. And our position and that of the Woodstock Institute that this will have a disproportionate